Welcome back to Adventures with the Hat Commander. This is episode 10 of Vampire the Masquerade Coteries of New York. We're just plowing away on a game that was supposed to only be like a 3-hour game, and this is the 10th episode. So let's see what's happened. We're getting ourselves buried in politics. I don't really know which side I'm going to take. So they're all not great. I don't know which sides we can take. I don't know. Something makes me think that Sophie is working against the Camarilla in some way, or trying to take power in some way, or something. I don't know. So, you've got her and two different Anarch factions. The one that's in charge versus the one that wants to take over. I don't know if you'll be able to side with the Prince at all. The Prince has been the only one that hasn't jerked me around, so that might just be the one that I pick. All right, let's get with Angelo. I want to try to wrap up his quest. It's been some time since your last visit at Red Hook. You should probably get back to D'Angelo and see if he's managed to figure out how to handle Santa. Red Hook. Now, that's a location in Cthulhu, is it not? Is that an actual place in New York as well? As you make your way up the stairs, you notice that D'Angelo's office is surprisingly quiet. You were half expecting something akin to a scene from The Exorcist, with Santa belching out curses and your companion sprinkling her with, well, whatever it is vampires use for holy water. What you witness instead as you open the door is the picture of Serenity. The girl, although still curled up in the corner, sitting calmly with her eyes fixed on the pages of some pulpy detective novel. She doesn't even register your presence. Sitting behind his desk, D'Angelo seems to be looking over some files, puffing on his usual brand of cigar. Seeing no trace of Larson, you assume he must have gone back to his family. Notice your presence. The vampire detective leans back in his chair and gives you a tired look. Hey there, kid. Glad you could make it. You kidding? I wouldn't miss this for the world. Clearly noting your sarcasm, he hits back with a smile that could express anything but amusement. Right. Make yourself comfortable. We have some heavy stuff to figure out, you and I. I've been going over the case file, mulling over our options. Surprise, surprise, they all suck donkey patootie. No matter how we go about this, someone gets screwed over. Her, Larson, us. Okay, then, lay it on me. What options do we have? Okay, let's polish this turd. Here's how I see it. 1, we grab Santa and take her to Elysium and make a case for her to Prince Panhard. 2, we get Valerie to back off by feeding her the dirt I got on Larson. 3, we try to get Santa out of the city. Come on, kid. I can hear them thoughts bouncing around your head from over here. Out with it. She murdered people. Like, I get she's a... Like, how do we know she's not going to go crazy again? Like, I get you got a bleeding heart, man. But, I mean, I'm a vampire. Do I really care that they're killing humans at this point? I don't know. But she's definitely a risk. You want to bring Santa to Elysium? Isn't that pretty much a death sentence? Pretty much, but not quite. If we can get an audience with Panhard, we might be able to convince her to spare Santa's life. The prince isn't as much of a hard patootie as some would like her to be. She'd probably rather avoid further alienation the Duskborn community. That said, if we run into Kadir, we're as good as screwed. Assuming we can get her out of the city, what makes you think she won't kill again? Hey, I ain't just gonna let her loose in another state and forget about it. I got some people up north, people I can trust. They might be able to help her. As at the very least, keep her safe and make sure she doesn't do anything stupid. Okay, time's a wasting. What do you think we should do? Wait, you're letting me make the call? Look, kid. I've been at it all day, mulling it over, and all I got for my trouble was a splitting headache. I just don't know anymore. All I'm asking for is your honest opinion. Just pick one and make a case. Convince me it's the right thing to do or the least wrong, at least. So one more time. Bring the girl to Elysium, trade her life for Larson's, or sneak her out of town. Which one would you go with? Bringing her to Elysium seems like the most reasonable thing to do, and the cruelest, or at the very least the most risky. If we can't convince Panhard to give Santa a shot, the girl's as good as dead. Then we better be extra convincing. So be it, Frick. Do me a favor, kid. Watch her for a few minutes, okay? I gotta make some arrangements, make a few calls. Catches himself, looks at you with an expression of the phoniest, a phony guilt, but not like with a phone or anything, because, that would make me a naughty boy, which I'm clearly not. He walks out of the office. Through the frosted window, you see him instantly go for his clamshell phone. Screw it. Does it really make a difference at this point? You turn to the girl who still has her nose in the book. So, is that book any good? I don't usually go for this sort of stuff. It just leaves me cold. She looks up from the book, and her eyes glaze over. Cold. Shiver run down your spine. You decide it's best to leave her to her reading and spend the next few minutes in complete silence. Smart move. Finally, D'Angelo staggers back into the room. All right, I called a friend of mine who works at the art hole. She says the prince is there right now in her private quarters, so we'll just have to figure out a way to get an audience. He walks over to Santa and crouches beside her. Speaking softly, he takes the book out of her hand and gently strokes her head. Hey, darling, I need you to listen very carefully. We're going to be on go on a little trip, okay? You need to stay quiet and stay close to me. Can you do that? Stay close to D'Angelo? She squints, trying her best to concentrate. D'Angelo. Close enough. Something akin to a smile creeps onto her face. It's as close to happy as you've seen her. Gift, not hurt. D'Angelo returns her smile. You're welcome. He turns to you, putting his serious face back on. He nods. Looks like it's go time. The art hole welcomes you with all its usual weirdness and grotesqueries, masquerading as contemporary art. Right now, however, art is the last thing on your mind. As the three of you make your way through the crowd of usual suspects, D'Angelo gestures towards a lone figure standing in the corner. To your surprise, it turns out to be Sophie. As you approach, she raises an eyebrow, taking an especially long look at Santa. And here I thought nothing in this world could surprise me anymore. Mind telling me what it is you're doing here? D'Angelo nods courteously. We're here to see Prince Panhard. I don't suppose you could help us get an audience. I think you're confusing me with the Prince's Herald, an honest mistake in this lighting. Still, I'm afraid you're out of luck. From what I've heard, the Prince is not accepting visitors. We wouldn't be asking if it wasn't important. I'm sure the Prince will be thankful for bringing this matter to our attention. Very nice, very slippery, and very futile. As I've already stated, the Prince is not accepting visitors. Suddenly you hear a voice from behind you. It's the last voice you could possibly want to hear right now. Maybe I can help. You look over to D'Angelo. He seems frozen in place, not able to move a single muscle. This is bad. Very bad. Keeping things casual, Kadir tips an imaginary hat in your general direction. When he looks at Santa, you notice his expression sour, if ever so slightly. Perhaps this is a conversation best held in private. Follow me. Before leaving, he nods at Sophie. Langley. Kadir. Again, you glance over to D'Angelo, but he doesn't even acknowledge you. He seems to be in a state of deeply internalized panic. Not seeing any way out of the situation, you follow Kadir into a small backstage area. There he stops and addresses you once more. It's good to see you, D'Angelo. It's been a while since you last showed your face around here, and I see you've brought friends. So how about we skip the unnecessary drama and you two leave without incident while I take care of our thin-blood guest? You don't have to do this. She can still be helped. Maybe, maybe not. But that ship sailed a long time ago. It ends tonight with me. It doesn't have to be this way. Just let us talk to Panhard. That's Prince Panhard to you, D'Angelo, and no, your harebrained scheme isn't going to work. What exactly did you think was going to happen? You bring the Duskborn with a blood hunt on her head to my doorstep, and what? Hope that Prince stays my cruel hand? Honestly, I thought you were smarter than that. But I promise to make it quick, painless. That is as much as you'll get, so don't push it. With that, he turns to Santa. His expression grows softer, almost kind. He then grabs her by the hand gently. There's not even an inkling of violence in his demeanor. Come, my child, you've been very brave. The pain is almost over. Pain over. With blissful ignorance, she looks at you and D'Angelo as the sheriff walks her out of the room. Your companion looks broken, as if something inside him just snapped. Without even looking at you, he utters under his breath, I killed her. You gave it your all. Sometimes crap just happens, and there's nothing you can do. Nice catchphrase, kid. You should have it printed on a t-shirt. A moment of awkward silence ensues. I really thought I could save her, you know. Not really knowing what to say, you lift your hand to pat him on the back. You stop yourself mid-motion. Somehow it doesn't seem like the thing to do. You leave the art gallery and head back to Red Hook. On your way, you keep thinking about Santa and whether now is the exact moment Kadir brings her final death. It's not a pleasant journey. Slowly, clumsily, you make your way back to the grain terminal. No words are spoken, no bad jokes made, no monologues muttered, and no smiles exchanged. There's only silence and vacant stares. As you head up the stairs to D'Angelo's office, you can feel the tension rising. You could tell the moldy sleuth has reached a breaking point. He walks into his office and leans against his cluttered desk. You figure now is as good a time as any to break the silence. Are you going to be okay? The moment you finish your sentence, D'Angelo leans over and sweeps all of his stuff off his desk. Notepads, bits of paper, and what looks like a cheap imitation of an antique lamp. It all comes crashing to the floor. It doesn't stop there as he grabs a heavy file cabinet and knocks it over. Slowly but surely, the once quiet office turns into a heap of crumpled paper and broken furniture. The tantrum lasts for a mere seconds, but as you stand there watching, it feels like forever. Finally, D'Angelo stops and looks up at the ceiling. It's hard to tell if he's had enough or simply run out of stuff to throw around. As he stands there slowly regaining composure, one of the objects scattered on the floor catches your eye. It's a small paperback novel, the same you saw Santa reading earlier tonight. It must have landed there while D'Angelo was giving the room a royal thrashing. You pick it up. In huge letters, the title of the cover spells, The Longest Night and Other Stories. A smaller caption underneath reads, Another collection of stories from the Gianni D'Angelo saga. What in the actual crud? You flip it over and are immediately drawn to the picture on the back cover. It's not for a lack of flaky skin and distorted features. You say, the guy looks very familiar. The name next to the picture, Reginald Finch. You stand there not even knowing where to start. Even in his current state, D'Angelo, or whatever his name is, remains one step ahead of you. Yeah, that's me in the picture. Reggie frickin' Finch. Haven't seen him in a while. Wasn't planning to. You named yourself after one of your characters? Afraid it's more than that. I sort of became him. See, Reggie Finch was a pushover, a small-time journalist, and a wannabe writer. He would have never survived out here, among the coteries of New York. Gianni D'Angelo, on the other hand. Honestly, it just sort of happened. Guess it was the only way I could make sense of it all. I mean, once you wake up looking like this, realizing your life and all that you were is gone forever, you can't really blame me for trying to at least make it interesting. I guess, to some extent, we all put on an act in front of others. We make up characters, idealized versions of ourselves. It gives us something to live up to. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still weird, but it's not that weird. D'Angelo, For a moment, he seems to be mulling over what you've just told him. Finally, he picks up the ashtray off the floor. Rummaging through the ashes, he finds a mingled, half-finished cigar. He sticks it in his mouth and lights it up, the lighter flame reflecting in his shades. He smiles at you ever so slightly. Thanks, kid. Tell you what, how about you take the rest of the night off? I need some time to get my crap together. Starting with this office, some dumb butt nugget made one heck of a mess of it. You smile and nod. He nods back. I'll be seeing you. And so you leave him to his thoughts. No way to be sure, but you have a feeling he's going to be all right. You wake up. This is not your haven. It's a cramped space. You try to move your arms and find that you are tied to your body. You can barely bend your legs. When you try to stretch your neck, you hit a cold ceiling. You can't quite believe it, but this is a coffin or something close enough to it. It vibrates slightly, but you can't hear any sound coming from outside. It's entirely dark. You focus and divert your blood to boost your physical prowess. The way you imagine it, you're going to Superman punch the lid off this thing. You kick it with all your strength, but only make a dent in it. Hey, it's a start. Keep kicking. With each hit, you make the dent bigger. You manage to make a small crack in the very bottom of the container. A bit of light and sound come in. The crack of a radio, the hum of a car engine, a nervous male voice. Object is breaking to containment. Please advise. A response you don't quite catch. The brakes of a car. An impact jostles your container about. Keep kicking. Keep wrestling out of your prison. The car door opens violently. You hear a gun being cocked. A panicked scream. Operation compromised. Engaging blank bodies. Shots. A struggle. Silence. Lid comes off. What the? We found you. Tell me we've hit the jackpot. Come on, get up. We gotta get out going. Seeing their faces is surprising, even more so in these circumstances. However, you realize the immediate danger and follow your companions out of the car and down a street in North Bronx. The van has crashed to another car. A familiar face, that of Kaiser's ghoul Jackie, stumbles out of the wrecked sedan and slinks away into the darkness before you can call after him. High School Jackie, I don't remember that person. The three of you jog away towards the line of trees and take shelter under some branches just as you hear a chopper approaching. It searchlights and illuminates the wrecked van and moves towards you. Hide now. You see Tamika literally go underground, melding with the earth beneath her feet as if she was being swallowed up. You look at D'Angelo, but he's not there. It must be his disappearing trick again. You're left alone with just seconds to make your move before the spotlight finds you. You take off before the light can reach you. Into just a single dash, you find a small overgrown mound beneath an old tree. You realize you didn't have to run that far. The searchlight passes through where you were standing just seconds ago, but doesn't actually reach much farther into the park. The helicopter flies on, its searchlights frantically moving throughout the vicinity as your companions once again appear in your proximity. Close call. We have to get out of here before the SI puts boots on the ground. Care to tell me what's going on? D'Angelo, fill them in while we walk. Follow me. The SI did a number on you. Your haven got raided, and they took you for a ride upstate. They have a facility somewhere out of town, not a place you'd want to be. The thing that surprised me the most, though, it was Kaiser who contacted us and let us know. Oh, yeah, Kaiser. And Jackie. Now I remember. Okay, that's the ghoul guy. And then that, what's that kind of limo? And Jackie's his ghoul. Wait, how did the SI know where I live? A dozen ways, CCTV, somebody saw you feed or use your power, somebody was observing Langley and got interested in your connection to her, an organized operation like in 2016, who the frick knows? There's our ride. Come on, stay low. The SI might still be around. Kaiser's familiar car stops nearby, and the back door opens. Your allies usher you inside and join you. Being inside this mobile fortress never felt like a relief until now. Hey, fledgling, miss me? No, not really, but I will say this. I am glad you're here. Well, I'm not overly fond of breaking licks out of covert SI transport, so I consider this an investment. That was a civilian transport, no convoy, nothing. I expected more resistance. What, you wanted more to sharpen those claws of yours on? Don't worry, that might still happen. You might even regret it. Things are afoot at the adage goes. Anyway, listen up, Calvin. You are here now only because I told your buddies that you were neck deep in poo. That van you were in, a one-way ticket to Hurtville, Pennsylvania. I broke you out of as a favor. Now you owe me big. How the heck did you know the SI broke into my haven and took me away? Is that a piss-poor attempt at an insult, fledgling? I've kept eyes on you ever since that little job you did for me in Nolita, in case I need you for something else. I have to know your comings and goings. I have a good idea of why the SI hit you, Calvin. Not that there aren't tons of good reasons for it. Might have been one of these, for instance. The screen as Kaiser's car flickers, and each of them now shows a short loop clipped. It's you getting into a fight, feeding, using one of your powers. You haven't exactly kept a low profile, fledgling. I get you're new to this. You didn't know better, yada yada yada. The fact is, the SI has tons of this stuff. Security camera footage, YouTube videos posted by onlookers, social media posts from victims, you name it. Like I said, though, I don't think any one of these did you in. Slip-ups happen. Not to you, though, right? I always wondered how it is that you can drive a pompously luxurious limo around New York and not get caught. What's your secret? Body doubles? Decoy cars? Kaiser smiles, going for that anthropomorphic piranha look you saw a few times before. You do know that what killed the cat, don't you, Mr. Finch? D'Angelo freezes and scratches his face, looking fiercely at the other Nosferatu. You notice that his hands are shaking. Well, do you? Stop shedding on the upholstery and answer, or should I use your given name, too? Yeah, I know why the cat croaked. You would, wouldn't you? You've never seen D'Angelo serve anyone a death stare quite like that one he's shooting at Kaiser now. As much as I enjoy tempering your overinflated ego, we're nearing our destination, so I think I'll move on. The reason I need you walking and talking, Calvin, is the test a hypothesis of mine. For that, I need you to finish what you were tasked to do. So first things first, here. Hands you a phone. The number has already been dialed. You hear the tones. Somebody picks up. Who is this? It's me, Sophie. Calvin, are you okay? They're fine and dandy. Kaiser, what are you doing on this line? What do you think? It's my phone your protege is using, so keep it snappy. Operating a secure network ain't cheap. Come on, Calvin, spit it out. Kaiser saved me from the Second Inquisition, Sophie. I only got out because of him. Your companions look at one another dejectedly. SI, that's what I feared. Listen, the plan, we need to do it tonight. But if the Inquisition is involved and you broke out, they'll be looking for you, so we can't meet in public. I have a place in mind, but Kaiser, are you still listening? Would I tell you if I wasn't? Calvin, call this number from where you visited before last we spoke. I'll come pick you up. She hangs up. And that's that. What is it that you've gotten yourself into? You never did tell me what kind of work you did for Langley. Don't play coy, D'Angelo. You must have figured out at least some of it. Don't worry. We'll have plenty of time to compare notes after we let our mutual acquaintance continue their night. And my intel is worth a darn. Your next stop, Calvin, is right about here. The car comes to a stop and the door opens outside. You see the street leading to Solids and Stripes, Torque's pool pub. Well, you need me to kick you out? What about Tamika and D'Angelo? What about them? They're staying right where they are, and we're going to have a little chat after we're done. I'm sure they'll find their way back to their havens just fine. The clock is ticking. I think I know what Sophie wants to do tonight. If I'm right, tonight's the last chance you've got. If you want to say bye to your buddies before you go, that's fine by me, but that schedule of yours is pretty hectic, so you better do it now and scram. You thank both of your companions for their assistance. Without them, you wouldn't be here now. Kaiser makes a gagging gesture and urges you to step out of the car. You turn around and make your way to the bar. The door closes behind you, and Kaiser's limo starts moving again. You hope your companions won't have to pay too high a price for helping you. The Solids and Stripes is pretty much abandoned tonight, with only the bartender and one blurry-eyed local watching an old Bogart movie on the bar screen. You ask to use the phone and call Sophie first. Yes? I'm here. What's the plan? We're on our way. Notify Torque if he's not there. We need to talk as soon as possible. Move quickly. She hangs up. You tell the bartender to notify Torque, just like the Anarch leader mentioned you should. The man makes a short call. You only hear somebody picking up, but no words exchanged. The owner's on his way right now. Can I get you anything while you're waiting? Actually, do you serve the special stuff? The bartender raised an eyebrow. Special reserve, you mean? Sorry, can only serve that to a narrow selection of the owner's friends. Listen, it's been a rough night. Give me a break, please. Just a sip. I don't know. I really shouldn't. What the hell. You really do look like you need it. He takes out a bottle from a safe behind the counter and pours a bit of brown liquid into a glass. It's whiskey. There, you enjoy it. You're disappointed. Disappointment is palpable. At least the smell is nice. Torque comes in some 10 minutes later without Mia. He tips his hat to you, puts a hand on the blurry-eyed patron's shoulder, says something to him under his breath. They both laugh. Marty, how's the night going? Quiet, sir. Just how you like it, huh? Torque notices the untouched glass with a bit of whiskey in it. That you persuaded the bartender to pour? For me, you shouldn't have. He takes the glass and drinks the liquid, moving it around in his mouth before swallowing. He looks you in the eye. Sure, I won't keep it in forever, but the night when I don't enjoy the taste of good whiskey is the night when I will truly consider myself damned. Well, Calvin, I believe you wanted me here for a reason. Let's hear it. You're about to tell him what brought you here when the doors to the bar open and Sophie walks in, all splendor and charisma. The patron's eyes are now glued to her, and so are the bartenders. Torque isn't happy with the sight. Well, this isn't what we agreed on, Calvin. Care to explain? Things got complicated. We had to improvise. Pleasure to make your acquaintance. I believe Calvin already told you why I'm here. Not in any detail. The circumstances of your meetings were supposed to be different. So, Miss Langley, tell me why I shouldn't ask you to leave and kick out your protege while I'm at it. You will like what I have to say. Yeah, I've heard the link 100 times. I've heard that line 100 times, but 99 of those ended with somebody getting hurt. That's not something I'm in the mood for tonight. We are wasting time. There's a unique opportunity we should take advantage of, and we only have an hour or so to discuss it before it will be time to act. My driver is waiting outside. Wait a gosh darn minute. First of all, I'm not going anywhere without Mia. That was the deal. Second, it's Calvin who is supposed to do the driving, not your servant. Both serve me, so really it's of little difference. The circumstances changed and we had to adapt. Don't be stubborn. Foolishness does not suit you. I have a secure spot in mind where we can talk. I'll stop you right there. Torque is seething, but he's keeping it lit on his anger. His voice barely changes. My conditions were clear. The way I hear it, you want to break each one of them. I see no reason at all to agree to any of this. I believe I will be staying put tonight. You have places to be, yes? Torque, you're throwing away the only chance you have at challenging Callahan. Don't be a fool. The lid comes off. Call me a fool one more time, woman, and that's not the only thing I'm going to be throwing. You're both acting like children. You need to put your differences aside and see the other's point of view. Both Sophie and Torque glare at you. No powers, just their personas are enough to make you feel like you'd prefer to be anywhere else but here. Who the frick do you think you are? There's only one child here, Calvin. You're their patron, Langley. What does that tell us? What are you implying, you insolent? Shots break the front window and a flashbang goes off in the room, changing the bar into a space of white light and ringing noises. You feel somebody tugging at your back and are thrown behind the bar. More shots ring out, bottles break, the TV shatters into pieces, the wooden bar splinters. Your sight comes back, but you think you've gone deaf, because suddenly the room is silent. You see Torque beside you and Marty, the bartender, bleeding out on the floor. You look over the bar. Sophie is standing there, her dress partially tattered, a visible hole in her leg. She is like the heart of a supernova, entrancing, unavoidably beautiful and terrifying. In front of her are 8 operatives, looking like a private military force, just standing there, paralyzed by Sophie's magnificence. Torque, you still there? Yeah. Would you kindly show our guests some hospitality? Sure thing. The Anarch is gone in the blink of an eye, and he reappears next to one of the soldiers. The armor-clad operative's head disappears in a puff of blood and bone. The same thing happens to a second. The third, you hear the radios go off on other soldiers' shoulders, a panicked voice pleading them to wake up. The fourth head pops, the fifth. They finally realize what's happening, but it's too late. The sixth man is beheaded by what you now see is just Torque's bare-fisted punch. Torque stops by the seventh man, rips something off his neck, and bites down. Sophie walks over to the last man and has him kneel in front of her before biting as well. On your right, a man in full body armor emerges from the back door, raising his assault rifle. What the frick? Not thinking twice, you stand up and grab the soldier's head in your hands. Before he can react, you twist. The sickening sound of breaking bone is followed by the crumpling of his limp body. You see Torque holding a combat knife in his hand, ready to throw it. He catches your eye. Beat me to it. Langley. Sophie wipes her mouth of blood and looks at him. That meeting still an item? Yes. I'll take it. Splendid. Torque walks by the bar and checks on the bartender. You see the Anarch open his own wrist and feed blood to the wounded man. Drink up, Marty. It'll make you feel better. Get the heck out of here and wait for Mia. She's coming and she'll know what to do. Torque? Yeah, come in. Take the back door, Calvin. Come on. You slink back into an alley behind the bar, leaving 10 bodies and 1 grievously wounded ghoul behind. Nobody stops you from circling around the block and finding your way to Sophie's car. Gregory drives away casually, as if this was just another late-night drive and not the crowning of a desperate, complicated evening. Sophie brings you all to the luxurious apartment in Manhattan, Upper West Side. The way she explains it, the vampire who owned it left the city a few years ago and gave away spare keys to a few trusted compatriots. It's been used sporadically since. Fancy. You like it. It's always felt too modern for my taste. But what's important is that it's secure. As long as nobody followed your car here or the fledgling trouble follows this one wherever they go. Even if that's the case, we have very little time to conduct our business. Here, anyway, you will be leaving soon, I hope. So let's begin. You look at Sophie, excited. Finally, you will learn what it is that you've been working towards for more than a week, and what it is that Kaiser wanted you to participate in. I have it on good authority that Boss Callahan is bloodbound to Prince Panhard. Torque sucks air loudly. That's an accusation and a half there, Langley. Got proof? No, but we're just about rid a boat ride away from getting it. What is that supposed to mean? Calvin, the address that I procured from Kaiser was the meeting spot for Panhard and the Baron's regular sharing of blood and other bodily fluids, if the rumors are true. Wait, Kaiser knew about this? Is there anything that's insufferable clump of dead skin doesn't know in the city? He knows things, but only shares them if you pay. Neither the prince nor Callahan can touch him. He's too useful. Kaiser said something about having plans for me, that he wanted me to make his meeting happen. That can't be good, right? That is an interesting point. I think Kaiser might be as interested in shaking up the status quo as we are. Chaotic landscape makes for a great market for him, unlike a static one. I don't like playing into the creep's hands, but at least now I know what I'm doing. The devil, you know, and all that. What was the address he gave you? They meet regularly on Ellis Island. In fact, their next scheduled meeting starts in just around half an hour. Hot darn, I'm guessing you want to crash that meeting. Why? So you can see the proof for yourself, so that I can make sure too, so that I have an extra pair of eyes for Panhard to consider when I present to her my ultimatum. The prince must abandon her seat and leave New York City. She can go wherever she pleases, but if she stays, the entire court will know the next prince might not look favorably on her past. Dealing with anarchs, especially so closely, is a punishable offense in the Camarilla, as I'm sure you've heard. So I did. Torque strokes his beard and looks intently at Sophie. What exactly are you trying to accomplish here? Say you remove Panhard, and I even remove Callahan, then what? Torque, do you ever wonder why Callahan is keeping you in check? Because I wondered why the prince condemns anarchs during her visit to Elysium, but doesn't allow the ivory tower to challenge you. She, or they, have engineered the status quo, not for the good of their sex, but for private gain. They keep us all in line because it lets them hold on to power that much longer. And your goal is what? Make this Cold War turn hot? Not a great plan. You cammies will get your butts kicked out of New York City in no time. If you anarchs manage to organize, which I doubt you will, at any rate, it's a risk I'm willing to take. I don't stand alone in this. This entire operation has been years in the making. Torque, I'm offering you a chance to square things with Callahan and level the playing field. If we get rid of these two, we can start on equal footing at the next stage of this dance macabre. Wait, isn't this copying the same status quo you're hoping to break? Just another Camarilla Anarch agreement to replace the current one? Well, for one, I don't expect to engage in physical congress with Torque to seal the deal. Fair enough. Also, if I understand your intention, this is just an alliance of convenience, a ceasefire for a common benefit, not a lasting peace treaty. Did I get that right? Exactly. So you see, Calvin, it's nothing like the current arrangement. It's quite the opposite, wiping the slate clean. You know, after all those years spent in Callahan's shadow and taking part in all the kindred manhood measuring contests, I should expect a ruse, some ploy to kill me in an out of the way place. That's her inherent paranoia talking. My gut tells me it's time to get this show started. I do hope you have a boat nearby, Langley. Sophie smiles mischievously. Of course I do. It's waiting for us by the pier. Lead the way then, the moonlight's burning. The three of you leave the apartment and walk toward the pier. Nobody seems to be following you. You get on a small patrol boat and double time it through the Hudson, cold, dark water. Out of all the places in New York City where the prince and the baron can meet, and it's Ellis Island, a landmark with a dark past, a museum on one hand, a dilapidated piece of history on the other. You leave the boat and make your way to the southern part of the island, paying no heed to the renovated tourist attraction on the northern side. You expected some resistance, a night guard, a helicopter flying overhead, or maybe a New York City Police Department patrol boat. Nothing. The island seems completely deserted. It's clear this sets Sophie on edge. She's moving as quietly and subtly as ever, but you can see that she's eager to reach the particular house her intel pointed out. Torque is following suit, grimly determined, flashing his piercing gaze all over, still clearly uncertain that this isn't some kind of con. Finally, you see it, light coming from a window in one of the buildings at the edge of the island. Three of you slowly creep closer to the building and take a look inside the window. There it is, Callahan kneeling in front of the prince, sucking on Panhard's wrist, both fully clothed, a small blessing. Torque makes his move, and before Sophie can stop him, he busts through the building doors. Why? All happens very quickly. Torque grabs Callahan by the shoulders and throws him through the still open door. Callahan hits the ground hard. Torque appears on top of him and starts punching. You fricker, you piece of poo. Stop. The prince's voice takes hold for just long enough to make Torque relent, which the Baron uses to the fullest. He shoves Torque off of himself and tries bite down. Prince, call off your lapdog. Langley, what is the meaning of this? The two anarchs break apart, both wounded, but neither is quite done yet. They look at one another with pure hatred. Kill the witch, Helen, but leave the fledgling to me. Right after I deal with this poo stain, I'm gonna... A shrill, unpleasant laugh fills the air. You know who it belongs to. So entertaining. Truly, it feels almost a shame to break up this spectacle, but alas. Thomas? Who the frick is this joker? Ah, yes, I don't think we met, though I did hear a lot about you, Mr. Torque. My name is Thomas Arturo, and I... Callan uses this moment of uncertainty to strike. He's still too slow for Torque, who throws the boss onto the lawn, where the two exchange blows once again. Helene, if you'd be so kind as to ask your friends to not hurt our guest too much. Callahan, don't kill him. This time Callahan comes out on top and grabs Torque in an iron hold. Your companion struggles but can't quite break away. I will not be denied, Helene. Not this time. You will do as I command. She will do as I command here, Douglas, old boy. What? Like I was saying before, I was so rudely interrupted. I feel like I need to break up this little spectacle. It's been going on for much too long. You think you're so smart, Langley. You and your clique figured out that there was something fishy going on in your town on your own. But you were always working with just a piece of the puzzle. Wasn't she, Calvin? Sophie looks at you, shocked and disappointed. What do I know? What are you? What I'm talking about, you ask? You fledgling. You don't know? How could you? Only I knew. And your sire, of course. They're the ones who agreed to embrace you after some negotiations. You hear a scream and a curse. It's Callahan, whose arm has been nearly ripped off his body. Torque breaks out of the Baron's grasp, but doesn't continue the attack. Instead, he's at the edge of the water in the blink of an eye and disappears in the Hudson. The only trace left of him is his fedora. Another actor going off script at the very end, eh? No matter. Let him bring us some amusement now that the production is almost wrapped up. He'll reach his allies. He'll tell everyone of this. Helene, even if we naively assume his nights aren't numbered, now that he's in the SI sights, this show must go on one way or another. Won't hurt to encourage leaks and speculation. Sophie looks at you. How could you, Calvin? I saved you. Arturo suddenly appears next to her and slaps her in the face. I'm so confused. I don't know what's going on. Like, I literally knew not. I was just like, hey, I'm just helping people out. And I'm just like, I'm not going to ask questions. I'll just, yeah, you look like you need help. I'll help you. And now it's like, you did all these things and know all these things. And I'm like, I don't know jack. Langley. What happened to your self-esteem? You can't really think a simple neonate has outplayed you. Or maybe this obvious oblivious act is your way of groveling for mercy. Thomas, what? You thought that being an expert chess player would always be enough? You never realized the people at the top simply flip the chessboard over and punch you in the face whenever they don't like how the game is going? He motions to the remaining kindred. But the thing is, you weren't even adept at playing the game. You knew. Calvin, just another pawn placed on the board by my associate. You thought they were your piece since you took them in, but who gave you that idea? You returned to the night where you were judged by Prince Panhard, the woman in red, Sophie, somebody speaking to her, a man in glasses, the man standing before you now. This is cruel. You know what's going to happen. If only somebody would speak up for the poor child, they could be a useful tool for the Camarilla. Terror creeps into Sophie's face. Of course, those are not the words you heard, were they? No. You were already grasping for some opportunity to further your scheme. I put the bait out and you took it hook, line, and sinker. After that, it was only a matter of time before you started using Calvin as your errand boy. No one is quite as easy to track and monitor as a naive fledgling who's just learning the ropes. What is that you want, Thomas? What do I want? Oh boy, the answer's so simple, but so hard to put into words. Unstable stability, cutting-edge tales of thrills and intrigue that push it to the limit and then return you to the tried and tested status quo, gently infallibly. A system full of distractingly moving parts, which stimulate conflict so convincingly that it uses never feel a need to direct their energy towards upsetting the system. Achieving the eternal through the disposable, building a city that's like a ship of Theseus, constantly changing its parts, yet always maintaining the same purpose, serving the same goal at all times. A large-scale infrastructure that's something like an exhaust system for the spirit, something that disperses the toxicity around instead of concentrating it in a single place. None of what you're saying makes the slightest bit of sense. Arturo is momentarily stopped in his tracks. He stares into the sky for a few seconds before a sad grin appears on his face. Spoken like someone who has never really had what it takes to make it in the big leagues. With a theatrical snap of fingers, he gives his last sentence a sense of finality. Something changes in the air. You could swear you saw a shadow move behind Sophie. Goodbye, Sophie. A person appears behind Sophie. You can't believe your eyes. It's Adelaide Davis, holding garden shears in her hands. Who's Adelaide Davis? I don't remember who Adelaide Davis is. You take off and rush towards Sophie. You only take a few steps before a figure blinks right next to you and pushes you away. Arturo. Oh, her. You hear the sheer snip. Sophie's red hair conceals her face as her head falls, separated from her shoulders. Silence. Arturo's unpleasant laughter erupts right next to you. Oh, Calvin, your career is moving at a breakneck pace. Moving up and up and up. Let me congratulate you on your promotion. I don't know, what? You killed her. Did I? Adelaide, jealous as ever, has taken a stab at the heart of the matter. My hands, my tongue, my conscience are clean. Helene, feel free to leave us and take the Baron with you. Thomas, I don't think you should. Shush, you're just being jealous. Adelaide, escort the prince and dear old Douglas, please. Sure thing, darling. You are left alone next to Sophie's body. You try not to look, but it's hard to ignore her, lithe frame decomposing in front of your eyes. Congratulations, you've won this little game. You set out on a suicide mission and successfully brought down the power-hungry wannabe tyrant, even if it probably wasn't the way you imagined it. Now you're free to enjoy paradise again, life after death, immortality, eternal youth. What they don't tell you is, of course, living in paradise is inherently sinful, when not everyone can partake. But you have time to learn how to live with sin, don't you? Take some melancholic look at the city skyline surrounding him, the Statue of Liberty and the lights of Manhattan shimmering in the distance. You know, New York taught me to believe in fate. My own life began right here, and it began with utter despair. My first instinct was to drown myself in books and keep reading and reading until literature gave me the piece of wisdom I needed to go on. Personally, I find reading a silly hobby in retrospect. I always had this minuscule hope the next sentence I'd read could finally bring me salvation, but it never did. It only gave me fuel for this elevated, righteous, intellectual suffering. But the more I read, the easier it was for me to boil every paragraph down to a power relationship. The characters' influence over each other, the writer trying to impress the reader, etc., etc. Man, stop talking. You're yakking, my friend. The strings everyone pulls started to look like strands that weave into a fabric of fate. Once I saw its beauty, got teary-eyed. My architect instinct kicked into overdrive. Didn't have to submit to fate. All I had to do was cooperate with it and wait for my time to shine. Give it my input wherever needed until it trusted me to do more. Thomas steps over what's left of Sophie's, wiping his glasses with elegant cloth from his pocket. And it did. Fate let me look after the city. With my architect's tools, I started quietly shaping the streets and corridors, while Kaiser and his ilk shaped the information flow. And among many tools this process gave me, one of them was a way to reliably come up with useful agents like you. The method I used to recruit at times, but the route was there. All you had to do was follow it. Some people write rule books, passages, the others play in city arteries. In the end, the effects is the same. Someone always follows. Stop talking. Puts on the glasses and gives you a long, hard look. You know I've grown fond of you. You did so well. Even when that idiot Callahan tipped the Inquisition off, you still got out. I like that kind of resourcefulness. I could use that kind of resourcefulness. He covers his wrist. So take my blood, just enough so we can start off on the right foot. It's a sign of good faith, a sign that you're ready to play in the big leagues, ready to behold the sights I've prepared for you. What do you say, Calvin? Man, all right. So 10 episodes. I finished it. That was so random. Random enough for me to probably have to play again. Definitely not recording, because I think reading it took like 10 times longer. But I don't know. Like I'm confused. I don't know how I got here. Anyways, thanks for watching another episode, or episode 10 of Vampire the Masquerade Coteries of New York. And have a good one.